Hello, welcome to Cult Classic Society, the podcast where I, Bobby Davies, and my friend Tim Martini take each other through the films, TV, games, albums and books we love. This week it's my turn, so I'll be taking the hosting duties. How are you doing, Tim?
I'm doing great, Bobby. How was your Christmas, by the way? Because if you want to give the listeners a little peek behind the curtain, we're recording this on the 30th of December. So, yeah, how was your Christmas?
Don't tell them too much, Jesus. We want to get some in the bank. No, yeah, Christmas was great. Pretty small, family-centred, saw a few friends. But, you know, nothing too crazy. How about yourself?
It was good. It was nice and quiet on Christmas Day. It was just me and my mum. And then on Boxing Day, went round to my friends for what we called Christmas 2.0. It was a nice big party, roast dinners, you know, just lots of fun.
Yeah, I saw the pictures. You look smashed.
I will neither confirm nor deny.
I set you some recommended reading this week. We are talking about one of my favourite bands of all time, Streetlight Manifesto, and I set you two albums. Everything Goes Numb, their first album from 2003, and their second album, Somewhere in the Between, from 2007. Tim, did you have any knowledge of Streetlight Manifesto before I asked you to look into them?
None. I didn't even know what genre they were.
It's interesting you say about a genre, actually, because a lot of people would say they're ska or ska punk, but Tomas Kalnoky, who's the lead singer and lyricist, kind of doesn't subscribe to that too much. He's like, there are elements of ska and punk, but they take a lot of Latin and even Eastern European influence. He is of Eastern European descent, and you can actually hear it in some of the music if you actually go back and listen to like certain chunks. So yeah, he would kind of, doesn't spurn the ska thing, because obviously it is quite ska-esque, but he doesn't, it's not the thing that he would describe Streetlight as.
Okay.
Just a little background, this band are from Brunswick, New Jersey.
Yep. I could tell in some of the backing vocals.
The band was originally started by three members of another band called Catch-22. That's Tomas Kalnoky, who is the lead singer and vocalist, Jamie Egan and Josh Ainsley. Thomas decided to leave Catch-22 so he could finish his studies at college, because he was only in college, really young.
Oh, wow.
And the band, despite the fact he was the lead singer and lyricist, the band decided to continue without him, which has caused something of a rift between them and the old band. Kalnoky got Egan and Ainsley and a lot of other musicians to record an EP called The Bandits of the Acoustic Revolution, which has some crossover with the first album, Everything Goes Numb. The lineup has changed a lot between the first and second album, because initially it was just going to be, these are great songs, let's record them as an album. Then half of the band kind of wanted to go on tour, so half of the band left and they were replaced. So it's actually a slightly different band between the first and second album.
Okay.
So by the end of 2005, so 2 years after Everything Goes Numb, Jamie and Josh, who were the two original other members from Catch-22, had also left.
Okay.
The first album that I asked you to listen to was Everything Goes Numb, their 2003 release, their first release as this band, post Catch-22, mostly written lyrically anyway by Tom Kalnoky, and I think he wrote a lot of the melodies as well, and then the brass and the bass lines came in later. He just wrote it on guitar and piano, most of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What's your first impression?
So just from like a general standpoint of, because obviously as you said, Thomas doesn't see it as ska or punk, it's like a mix of everything. It's very chaotic, I would say. The album goes 100 miles per hour, and it only has few stopping moments, few moments of quiet and levity. And I like it, but at the same time, it made me start thinking all the songs are blending together.
Is that just in the first or both albums?
Essentially say that my first note when I listened to the second album was I thought I was still listening to the first album because they were playing together.
Oh, really? Because I always find that I think the production on Somewhere in the Between is a lot better. The songs are way more distinct.
I do think they become more distinct, but it always felt like, I think my thing is especially, so I actually wanted to ask a question.
Yeah?
Is the saxophone a major part of ska music?
Not really. It's normally trumpets and trombones.
Okay.
But they've got two saxophone players.
Yes.
They've got a regular sax and a baritone sax, which is really unusual, because if a ska band does have a sax, it very rarely has a baritone one, which is that deeper sax. And occasionally, the guy who plays baritone sax also, if you listen on some tracks, there's a clarinet, and that's him. So this album, Everything Goes Numb, took 2.5 years to write and record. Really? They've actually said, or Thomas has said, it was he agonises over everything.
Yeah.
So he would wake up in the middle of the night and go and re-record bits.
Wow.
Because he recorded it in a nearby studio. He found it difficult to kind of say that something was finished, essentially.
Okay, so he's the perfectionist.
Oh, yeah. Like, you say it's chaotic, but if you actually listen to the chaos, it all lines up perfectly. Like, there's a lot of instruments. And especially if you go watch any live videos, it's insane how they play faster live than they do on the record.
Jeez.
And the records are fast. And Thomas, he plays guitar and sings at the same time. And he keeps up. I do not know how he does it. He is a ridiculously fast singer.
Because I actually did put in my notes multiple times, I would love to hear these songs live.
Yeah, they're insane. Yeah.
There's just such a great energy to them.
I saw Streetlight live once in around 2008 or 9. They don't come over very often because they're not a huge band.
Yeah.
I saw them at the ULU, the University of London Union.
Wow.
And it was amazing, insane. Only problem is some of the fans are a bit snobby because everyone considers like Streetlight have got like quite deep meanings to their lyrics and stuff. And Thomas Hashley said he's one of my favourite lyricists of all time. His lyrics are brilliant, but it does mean some of the fans are quite snobby about it.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is, okay, not Scar, but Scar. We're all meant to be here to be having a bit of fun. Yeah. Chill out, guys. But some of them chant it like it's a bloody war anthem.
I do think you always get that with like any like subsection of like a band group. They will like look too deeply into stuff, or they will obsess over things. Unfortunately, that always just comes with the territory.
Yeah. I mean, we had the same talking back to our Slipknot episode. I know that there's a subsect of Slipknot fans that are so hardcore. Yeah. That like you go to a gig, they scream like it's their bloody national anthem.
Oh yeah, as we said, like with songs like "People Equal Shit," that's like one of those anthem songs that everyone just like screams, myself included. But
so, like when we did Slipknot, I'm gonna go track by track. I don't know how many notes you made on each track, or
I went track by track and made notes on each song, and just like I did for Slipknot, Bobby has both albums in front of him, so he could see each song.
Yeah, I've got the track list. I've got the track listed on my notes as well, to be fair. So the first track, confusingly, the album is called Everything Goes Numb. The first song is called Everything Went Numb.
Yeah,
which is sometimes even as a long-standing fan, sometimes change them around by accident. So what's your opinion on Everything Went Numb?
I really liked it. So I loved the opening sax riff.
Punchy as hell, isn't it?
So good. I always think your opening track needs to be the one that sets the tone for everything. It's something that obviously I said a lot in the Slipknot episode with each album, and I felt this one like, cool, I understand what it's going to be now. And yeah, that sax riff, like, so good. I just write has a very chaotic feel, and again, I think that also just made me go, yeah, I'd love to be like in a live atmosphere for this.
In a pit for it, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Did you have any kind of inkling what the lyrics were about?
I didn't really. There was only like maybe a couple of songs where I did, but this one, not really. I was just like trying to knock my head along. Yeah, I was trying to when I was listening to this song, I was just trying to understand like the vibe of the band, like what they were going for.
It's quite hard to understand what Kalnoky's going on about half the time. I listened to an interesting podcast that said Streetlight write 2 songs. They write songs about suicide and they write songs about bank robberies.
Yeah.
And I do disagree with that, but it is funny that a lot of them will fall into those categories. I listened to an interview with him as well. He often writes songs that to the outside don't make sense because he'll write a bunch of choruses that are about one thing and then a bunch of verses that are about something completely different.
Yeah.
So a lot of the songs have 2 stories they're telling, and to him, I don't think it necessarily, whether it doesn't matter or whether it's that they kind of line up in an obscure way, I don't think it necessarily matters to him.
Yeah, I would say like, because sometimes what a lot of artists do, it's just they just write for themselves, and if it appeals to the lyrics appeal to someone like who's listening, it's good. But sometimes only he will know what they're doing.
Yeah, you can read like most of the songs. I ended up doing, because I'm such a big fan, I didn't really think I was going to need to do, especially in terms of the meanings of the songs, like a whole lot of research.
Yeah,
I thought after listening to them all 1,000 times, there'd be some inkling in my head of what exactly each song is about. And as I re-listened to them, I was like, this is what I think it's about. But I actually went and like looked up. He's not very talkative. They don't do a lot of interviews. He says that he'd rather the kind of music speaks rather than him. The songs have got a ton of meaning in them. Take what you want from it.
Yeah.
But then there's a ton on Reddit of like people going, I think it means this. And then I listen to it back and go, oh, it could mean that. Or if some people have already had like the same idea I did.
Yeah.
This one, though, he has spoken about what this is. Although it's quite obvious if you listen to the lyrics. It's about someone prepping for a bank robbery, but they feel, like, nervous. And he said, Kalnoky said, this is like a stab. He'd been reading a lot of Frank Miller at the time.
Oh.
And he was like, I wanted to do a song that had noir lyrics. In his head, when he was writing them, he was picturing a noir film of a bank robber.
Yeah.
Preparing to set up and being nervous and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is an odd one, because a lot of their songs have proper poignant political meaning,
Yeah.
and then some of them are like this. It's just like he doesn't hit the nail. He doesn't like wallop you over the head with constant political stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Just sometimes.
just sometimes. I was gonna say, love the chorus.
Yes, so good.
So good. And there's a bit right before the second chorus where the song slows down. It's like a nice little instrumental break.
Yeah,
I really liked that.
it's proper calming, isn't it? For
Yeah,
them?
it's very calming, and it just like goes straight back into the second chorus, and it's just the chaotic energy's back. And when you say like the bank rob being nervous before that, it's kind of that really like fun fact, like he's sitting in those nerves, and then that breakage of chorus, that is the bank robbery.
Yeah, definitely.
It definitely works in that sense. I think so I think for an opening song, it's really good.
Yeah, it comes at you at a million miles an hour, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So the production on this album, I don't think is amazing. It's decent,
Yeah.
but it's not. The second album we're going to talk about later, the production is a lot better.
Yeah.
And I still think it's amazing. And whether it's just a bit earlier in terms of early 2000s production techniques or whatever, you can still pick out every instrument.
Yes.
Nothing really gets lost despite the slight lack of quality compared to their later stuff in terms of recording.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I think it weirdly works in the album's benefit, like how it sounds. Because I think back to like early Metallica days where everyone agrees the production quality isn't that good, but if you have good instrumentals and good lyrics, that can overpower it, and sometimes it does add to the effect. And I think with this, it really does.
It keeps it quite raw, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. They've also had a lot of songs, including the next one, which we'll talk about in a second, That'll Be the Day.
Yeah.
It's quite skate punky, straight out the bat.
Yeah.
And if you listen to a lot of old kind of 90s skate punk, it is all recorded in, mum's basement.
Yeah.
It's that kind of level quality of recording. And this is higher than that in terms of quality.
I was gonna say, I could imagine playing like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and having that on the soundtrack.
Yeah, you'd get like Superman by Goldfinger.
Yeah.
And then everything went numb. Like,
Yeah,
it would
exactly.
fit, wouldn't it? It would totally fit.
It blends perfectly.
So yeah, we'll move on to That'll Be the Day. What do you think of track 2?
My immediate note was the guitar and bass makes it feel very heavy at the start.
So yeah, it's very. This is one of the tracks that's like they leaning into that 90s skate punk stuff.
Yeah.
And what I like about the bass on here, despite the fact it's like skate punk, but a lot of skate punk is just a very simple bass line.
Yeah.
Like 8 of the same note, 8 of the same note, 8 of the same note. He's not like that. He does a proper walking, fast, like, silly bass line. He's incredible.
I was gonna say, like, it does feel like a lot. It's their first album, so they want to show off everything they can do. So just like messing around, just having fun.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's just a fun vibe, like that the whole album like gives. It's just fun.
So again, you said in the first song there's a slower drop.
Yeah.
Did you kind of the drop in this one? Did you kind of pick it out at all?
I didn't pick up the drop, but I did notice that he was playing around with the structure a bit.
Yeah, because the thing I was going to say about the drop is it sounds almost medieval. Like it's almost that kind of, almost sounds like it could be on a lute, like the way the structure of how he's playing.
Because he plays around the structure as well, because the second verse is much shorter than the first verse. And yeah, I found that really fascinating, because it's more like sometimes it's like, okay, I just need to get this part out, and then we can just go back to instrumentals, have that fun vibe.
They don't do any standardised structure at all.
No, and
so like you can get a random instrumental between a verse and a chorus, then another one later that's completely different, and it makes no sense to structure. But they've clearly just gone, oh, this will sound wicked.
Exactly. Again, it just sounds like they're just having fun on this album, and as a listener, you're having fun alongside it.
Yeah, I mean, one thing in my research, I like to listen to what other people's opinions are on podcasts and YouTube videos. There are people reacting to it, and the word "fun" just comes up all the time. And this one, especially, the lyrics are a bit depressing, but the music is fun as hell.
Yeah, I wrote as well. It's a fun juxtaposition.
Yeah, and it happens a lot with Streetlight, because he writes a lot of serious, depressing songs. Very rarely does the music reflect it.
Yeah.
So in this one, the song from seemingly like kind of what I thought and looking into what other people thought, it's about preventing someone, trying to stop someone killing themselves, trying to prevent a suicide.
Yeah.
They're quite anti-religious as well.
I had noted a reference.
Yeah.
I think it's very obvious considering what the song is called, but we'll get to that point.
Yeah.
We'll get to it.
Even this one, when he's trying to stop this person committing suicide, there's a line he says, or a couple of lines where he says, "Now we're saved, every single sin absolved, what's the point denying when we all know we are lying to ourselves?" He was around 20, 21 when he wrote these stuff.
Wow.
And I'm like, as a teenager, when I was in a band at that age, I was writing stupid shit about getting drunk.
Do you know what he was studying at college, university.
No, he's never really spoke about it. He said that he went back and finished, but I don't know. Philosophy would probably be my guess.
Like, because I mean, philosophy, politics, or religious studies. Like,
yeah, maybe.
Any of those.
Well, in America, you don't study one thing, do you? You pick a major and a couple of minors.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if it was like philosophy, science, and a minor in religious thing to see what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. So, the next song...
Let's got one more note, yeah. Type of, upbeat instrumental for very down the lyrics.
Yeah.
As we were alluding to. But then, there's just a random 20 seconds of silence at the end.
Yeah, and it kind of phases down, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Very slowly, yeah.
And it felt weird to me. Because with most songs, when there's like silence, it's only like
something's going to happen.
10 to 15 seconds. And then if you hold it for that long, something's going to happen.
So I think he's trying to build, or they're trying to build as a group.
Yeah.
But probably his idea, because he's, again, the lead kind of thought behind most of it. For the next song.
Yes.
Which has it's just a guitar and him.
Yeah.
And this is the song, so Point and Counterpoint, track 3, is the song that made me love Streetlight Manifesto.
Really?
So my friend Reeve, he is the one who introduced me to them, and this is the song he showed me, and I was like, God dang, these guys are insane. And to that point, that intro bit is, especially amongst the kind of ska fans, punk fans, is iconic. That intro, when he's talking, and I think the silence is to allow that to breathe. So because he literally goes, it's say 10 seconds or so of silence after the instruments have actually all faded out, and then it just goes, I've got a gun in my hand, and then
I put in my notes. Do you remember there's an episode of The Simpsons where Tall Tales where they're on a train and they have a hobo singing a song. It's the exact same instrumental, like guitar strum, exact same lyrical pattern,
really?
Everything. It's the exact same, and that's all I could think about.
When we stop recording, I'm going to have to go watch that.
Yeah.
Because I remember that, but I don't remember the song.
Because because he's talking about because singing this song, I was like, and then all I could think about was Simpsons. So I actually had to restart the song so I could actually absorb the lyrics. I was like, wow, this is really dark.
Did you take those lyrics in, the intro? Do you remember them?
I don't remember it well, but I know like holding a gun in his hand and stuff like that. It's like, I was like, this is really dark, but he's saying it in such a weirdly joyful manner.
Yeah. This is one that if I'd really thought about it when I was younger, I never thought it sounded like Suicide. I thought it, again, fitted in closer with the first one, which is about someone committing a crime of some description. I've got a gun in my hand, the gun won't cock, fingers on the trigger seems locked.
Yeah.
Can't stop staring at the TikTok clock, and even if I could, I would never give up.
Yeah.
But then that kind of, you go, that could be about suicide. But the next bit is, with a vest on my chest.
Yeah.
Sounds like a bulletproof vest, right?
Yeah.
And, a vest in my chest, a bullet in my lung. I can't believe I'm dying with my song unsung. And if and when I die, will you bury me alone? Because I'll never get to heaven if I'm singing this song.
Yeah. So
it sounds like he's been shot, not that he shot himself. But a lot of the breakdowns of this, and he's not really spoken much about this song either, most people interpret it in two halves. That the first half is about someone else trying to kill themselves and he's trying to stop them and he gets shot.
Okay.
And then the second half is the opposite way around. He's telling the stories if he was trying to kill himself, someone was trying to stop him.
Yeah.
He talks about suicide a lot. I don't know whether he's got kind of a lot of friends with it or he's got his own kind of mental health problems.
Well, I was going to say, so it's like 2003, early 20s. I think there's the cultural zeitgeist at that time, I think there's a lot going on because this is around the time of obviously this is 2 years after Iowa.
Yeah.
And that's very heavy stuff as well. So I think cultural youth at the time was very...
There's a lot of anti-war as well because of Bush and the...
And I think the sentiment was, I don't want to, especially when youth, I don't want to be part of this country if they're doing all this. So one way out.
Yeah, maybe. This one, despite the fact I love it, and I could probably recite it word for word just speaking it, but even knowing the words off by heart, really understanding what it's about, I'm a little bit like, I don't know. Because I genuinely, for a long time, just thought it would fit it in with the whole robbery vibe. They do quite a lot, or the crime vibe. They do quite a lot. But nearly everyone else, when I looked into this on Reddit and on Lyrics Meaning and stuff, everyone was talking about suicide. I was like, there's no one going to reference the clear bulletproof vest thing, right?
I immediately got suicide vibes from it as well, but I do think that's probably just because of the music I listen to.
Yeah, maybe.
Obviously listen to heavy stuff. I was like, oh, well, it must be this. What else could it be about? But then, obviously, the vest line did throw me. I was like, Well, he might have just been wearing just a standard vest and then just shot himself.
That's all
anyway.
he was wearing, yeah.
Yeah.
And as he says, the bullet in his lung, and I don't think anyone's ever shot themselves in the lung.
maybe it's just really bad aim.
Yeah. Do you have any more notes on point, counterpoint?
As I said, using the chorus to open it with the, have it be soft and then have it also be chaotic later, it's like a nice blend of everything. But I thought the final verse reminded me of Bare Naked Ladies 1 Week. In the way that the verse is like being sung.
The kind of, that kind of jovial...
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Like, that was all I could think about. It might have been because I was watching...
I think this is pre that song.
No, Bare Naked Ladies was 90s.
Was that one 90s? I know they kept going into like a late 2000s, didn't they?
Yeah, but no, 1 Week was in the 90s. And I think it might have been because I had just watched What We Do in the Shadows, and that song...
Was on there.
Was on that in that episode.
Okay, yeah.
So it was already in the back of my mind, but then, once he started like singing like the verse, it sounded very similar to the verses in that. So like, oh, interesting.
Sorry, there was one more note that I just thought of while you were saying that. The reason a lot of people think the suicide vice versa thing is the song's called Point and Counterpoint, and it's an argument.
Yeah.
I make a point, you make a counterpoint, which is one of the lines as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Every time I make a point, she makes a counterpoint. Again, Kalnoky, every lyric, you take it, it sounds like poetry, right?
Yeah.
But what it means is beyond most of the time.
Yeah.
So, the next track, If and When We Rise Again. What do you think of that?
So, I only had one note for this, because around this point, the tracks are starting to blend together for me.
Okay.
And I was trying to literally sit down and process, like, find things that are different. I loved the long opening, the long instrumental opening. It worked as an amazing breather, especially after point counterpoint.
Do you want a little fact about that fun opening?
Was it improvised?
No. It is based on a piece of music by Brahms. So Brahms was German.
Yeah.
And he takes a lot of like kind of European influences. And it's almost, which is obviously because it's out of copyright, but it's almost a direct thing of the Hungarian dance number 5, whatever that is. Well, I don't say whatever that is. I looked it up when I found it out, and it does. It sounds very similar, and he clearly has taken influence from it. Yeah, it's not the same. It's similar.
Yeah.
So there's like a bit of a classical influence on this track.
Okay, because I would say like that was like one part of the song, just like it felt very unique, and it set itself apart in my mind very quickly.
Well, it's very unique to bring anything classical into what is essentially rock. A subsect of rock.
Yeah.
The only other band I can think that have done it is Panic at the Disco.
Yeah. Actually, because you said I went to a concert last month for an EDM artist called Apache.
Oh, yeah.
And his big album was called Renaissance, where he would sample a bunch of classical music.
Yeah, so I think like dance and drum and bass and stuff have done it a lot. But I think rock, very rare.
Yeah, rock rarely does it.
Yeah.
But it's so... I always find it fascinating how artists try and blend it together.
Yeah, there's obviously... mostly because most of it's out of copyright.
Yeah.
So you can use a lot
of it. It's public domain, it's great.
Yeah. You can use a lot of it, and obviously a lot of them are very recognisable. Even if you don't know that you know it.
Yeah.
It's on adverts, it's in films.
Exactly.
There's loads of music that you know.
Exactly, because partially he used Mozart's Lacrimosa. And it's very recognisable the moment you hear it, and he just like blends it into this really like heavy job. Like, that's clever. So I always try to like see how it works now. Yeah,
it's clever when you kind of, especially taking stuff like that. And I think a lot of people do it with the intent that people recognise it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was necessarily what they were doing, Streetlight were doing. I just think he clearly likes classical, and he's like, I'm going to borrow from it.
Especially if it might be music he grew up on, he might just want to play.
Yeah, well, like I said, his family are mostly Eastern European. So the next song, do you have any more notes on that? If and When We Rise Again?
No, I didn't, unfortunately.
So A Better Place, A Better Time is a lovely song. It's it's got a lot more slower bits, so I thought you might enjoy this one.
I did. So this was actually one of the things I wrote. It's like, this song makes me wonder if I'll ever just get like a full slow song, because when they're slow, there's such a different atmosphere to it, and I was really enjoying it. And they go, no, we're going to pick it up again. We're going to pick up the pace again. I was like, oh, come on. Because this was the point. It's like, every song is really fast. I need a breather. And it was at this point, actually, I had to take... This was my first break. So
I would say more of this song is slow than fast. This is the first time that happens.
Yeah.
There's a majority slow. It still does speed up. But
But I will say also with these two albums, I had to take multiple breaks because It's like, I need a minute to calm down.
I
Like,
suppose because I've listened to them a million times.
Yeah.
When I was doing my notes for this, the first thing I did just stuck them on.
Yeah.
And I listened to them back to back in
Yeah.
in 2 hours without stopping, like because I love them. Again, these two in different respects probably feature both in my top 50 albums of all time.
wow.
Somewhere in between, specifically in the top 10 for
Yeah.
sure.
I would say because this is like my first like introduction into like this genre of ska. Like, even though Thomas doesn't say it's ska,
Heavily scarring.
heavy ska influences. This is my first like foray into that. So
we'll change that as this podcast goes on. I've got a lot of ska bands for you to listen to.
So I think it was just me still trying to wrap my head around it and understand it from that point, because a lot of things I listen to is like rock, rap, EDM. So understand, maybe this is just a style and how it is. So I think
It's not actually, they're quite unique within, they are, the fans of ska music consider them ska, even if Thomas says they're not. But they are very unique sounding within ska.
yeah,
A lot of ska stuff is jovial. This is quite jovial, but a lot of up notes on the offbeat and stuff like that. And they don't do any of that. That's kind of a real mainstay of ska, is a guitar played upwards on the offbeat. I don't think he does that once. The only thing that kind of links them to ska is the brass section.
yeah,
And the fact that some bands call themselves ska punk.
Yeah.
And they're quite punky if you listen to the guitar and bass and
yeah,
drums.
absolutely.
They're the kind of thing that makes it sound scarry. I think Thomas never wrote it intentionally to sound scarish. That's why he says it. It's just that he had a bunch of friends that played brass instruments, and he had a bunch of friends that could be in a punk band, and just brought those together.
Yeah,
So anyway, A Better Place, A Better Time is one of the rare songs that Kalnoky's actually spoken about.
oh really?
So there's a video of him. You can find it on YouTube. He's playing it just himself. He does tour himself under Tohkay, Tohkay. It's kind of Tom Kalnoky.
I will talk about that later.
Okay. And he plays, when he does the solo tours, he plays as just Streetlight jams as well, just solo, just with an acoustic guitar or a piano. And he stops midway through the song and explains the song,
Oh wow.
which is, he does stuff like this on a whim quite often. The rest of that tour, he won't do it. But for some reason, he can see the audience are really vibing, and he's just like, I'm going to talk about this song. So he stops halfway through the song, and this is, I found the link on Reddit actually, but so someone shared it when people were asking what they think this song is about. And the first half of it, or half of it, is about when Kalnoky was about 18. He worked summers as a camp counsellor in a camp for people with learning difficulties and physical difficulties. And there were two kids who were best friends. They both had cerebral palsy, and they actually lived together year round in a care home. And apparently, when one of them had to go for an operation, they said something. It wasn't word for word what he said, because Tom poetried it up.
Yeah.
But he essentially said to the guy, his friend, it'll be better when you've had the operation, because you're in pain. The operation will make it better, and I know you're scared, which is the line. Which then he doesn't say this actually, but obviously when you listen back to it, it's like you're going to awake in a better place at a better time.
Yeah.
It's that. So I think that's the verses, and then the chorus. There's a friend of his who was a girl, and she once said he had like a deep conversation with her, and she was really struggling, and she said, "Some days I just hope I don't wake up."
Yeah.
And so he did this song split between someone being nervous about kind of coming around from an operation and someone who just doesn't want to wake up at all. And they kind of, in a weird way, those storylines are almost complementary.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
In a very roundabout
really
way.
well.
Yeah. And so this is what I mean by, like, there's no way you can know what half the songs are about, because half of them are like personal stories from his life.
Yeah.
And he's not going to he doesn't often sit and tell you what they're about.
Yeah. So I do have one more note, and it was like, I appreciate the change in verse because it makes the song feel like it's in parts, like it has segments.
Yeah.
And they gave me very Metallica Master of Puppets vibes.
Oh, okay.
Because that song, it will have like this big, like, that opening chord, and then it goes into the slower part, and then goes to fast again, and it had a similar vibe to the song.
Like really split it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. I think most of their songs, some of them do roll straight through, and you're like, God damn, that was just an assault on my ears.
Yeah.
In a good way. They're constantly going at me. Then other times, you will be sitting, especially as there's another album after these two, and they haven't done one since then, which was 2013. But I remember listening to it and going, God damn, that hits. And then all of a sudden the verses go really slow, and you're like, oh, here we go. And then back up, and then back down. But it really gives a distinct thing to each part of the song. If amongst the fans, and I've got friends who are fans, if you say a song, everyone picks out a different part of that song to remember that song by. So you go, oh, point counterpoint, and some people go, "Oh, that long intro where it's just him and the guitar," and then other points are like, "No, the chorus."
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think again, the same with what you say about Metallica, splitting things up that way makes people appreciate different parts of each song.
Yeah.
So the next one, another one that he's actually spoken about, is "We Are the Few." What did you think of "We Are the Few"?
I actually like the songs are blending together too much, but I couldn't decide if I liked that or not because, again, when I talk about like it being live,
Yeah.
if this whole album could be an entire set list.
Oh, it could, yeah, for sure.
And I was like, I like it from that point of view, but at the same time, it made it harder to take notes.
Yeah.
Because I could be just like writing something down on my phone and say, oh, it's good, let's still this one. Look up on my like screen, like, oh no, we moved on to the next one, and that was becoming a major issue for me.
Yeah, I think he definitely, or they as a band, definitely sculpted these albums to flow together. There was an intentional flow through the album.
Yeah.
Very rarely do they want you to stop, know that it's the definite end of the next song.
Yeah.
They want it to play as an album.
Yeah.
And that's why, again, what we say about him being a perfectionist and going at 2 a.m. to change parts of the song.
Yeah.
It's because he wanted it to come as a piece rather than these are individual songs. Obviously, you can play them individually and each song has a different meaning, but I think he wants the end of one song to mesh slightly with the beginning of the next. Yeah. Did you have any notes on "We Are the Few"? Apart from where you had to stop and start.
I just put like I just really enjoyed it, and yeah, again, it's that chaotic energy. It's because I had it playing in the background, like tidying stuff up, bopping my head along to it, like tapping my legs, going, oh, even though it's playing together, I still love it.
I think especially if you're not listening, in the future, if you listen to these again, you won't be listening to them to analyse them.
Yeah.
You'll just put it on and go, oh, the album's over. An hour later, go, I enjoyed that.
Yeah,
Great.
exactly.
Yeah. So this is another one, and it's another one that is about 2 things. He's taken 2 stories and gone, yeah, here we go. So one is about, I don't know if you're old enough for this yet, but when you're older and you go back to a place where you used to hang out when you were younger, and there's a bit of like, almost like a haunting thing of it, ghosts of the past type deal, where you're like, oh, do you remember when we used to hang out here? And, oh, there's that person we used to hang out with us all the time here, and I've not seen them in 10 years. It's that kind of vibe.
Okay.
Of like looking back. And then the second bit, and this is one I was like, what the hell? Because I get that bit. That bit makes sense to me. This bit. So there was a period of time around this time when he was writing the lyrics that a lot of little girls were being stolen from their homes to be trafficked. And he says it seems like this kind of shit happens in horrible ways, but then you realise it's always happening, and it's just that it becomes like a thing for the media to exploit it at certain times.
Yeah.
He said he compared it to a thing called a shark attack summer, where obviously in America they decide there's a slow news summer.
Yeah.
Let's talk about shark attacks, which make them seem like they're way more abundant this summer than they ever were, when they're not really.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because of the media, we don't know that these little girls are being stolen all the time.
Yeah.
Being kidnapped all the time. And some of them turned up, he says some of them turned up killed or worse, which I kind of see where he's coming from with that saying. And the idea is, some of the lyrics are saying stuff that he would like to say to these girls who are like, don't know where they are, what's happening. Yeah, that people are still looking for you, people still care about you, stuff like that. And when I first read that, I was like, that's really disjointed for those 2 halves of a song.
Yeah.
But when you go, the way you could look at it is if you turn that round, these little girls who are being kidnapped, or there's probably boys as well, but he says girls specifically, don't get to be the age where you could be nostalgic about the place you grew up or the place you used to hang out. And I think there is a link there, whether he intentionally put that or not. The way I read it when reading him say that, is if you switch that around, they are not able to kind of get to that.
Yeah.
Whereas where kind of, it's sad and you feel old and like you've missed a lot, like you're privileged to have got there.
Yeah.
You're privileged to still be like wandering around that area.
It's just fascinating to me with like how he'll reveal some of these like lyrics and their definitions. They can be quite dark, and then when you hear the songs, they're so very chaotic and jovial.
Yeah.
And it's really shocking to like experience that.
He's very, like, I think you used the word juxtaposition earlier.
Yeah.
It's a real juxtaposition between the 2 points. It's almost a point counterpoint, isn't it? There's a line, and then when I went back over the song, and I'd written this line down before I found him saying that. Weirdly, I think it now makes even more sense. I don't know where we went wrong. All I know now is I've got to do something right, which is the bit, I think if you go back and look at it, it's the bit after talking about the girls. And obviously he's talking about someone should help them, or
Yeah.
like at least be a positive kind of something on there. But yeah, when I read that, I was like, God damn, Kalnoky, you go deep all the time. Anything else on that song?
No, I think, well, hearing what it's about, changing my perspective on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great song. And I think, as you said earlier, definitely will listen to all this again now, not having to analyse.
No, I'm not taking notes for
Just
sure.
experience the vibes.
Of the album,
Yeah.
Just stick it on and just play some video games and listen
Exactly.
to it. The next song is Failing Flailing. Do you have any notes on Failing Flailing?
I felt the long intro was very self-indulgent to me.
Streetlight are massively self-indulgent.
Yeah.
I love him and I love them, but sometimes you do go, come on lads.
Yeah.
Like, they're genuinely they're in my top 5 favourite bands of all time, and I know they're self-indulgent.
Yeah. Because, as I said earlier, I keep blowing my head along to these songs, even though I'm aware it's very self-indulgent, and again, it's me analysing, like, above my head, like, writing this, and like, still just like, no, I'm enjoying this, even though, like, come on, guys, give me something that isn't just you just messing around together.
What I've always thought, though, is at least they're good at what they do. It's massively self-indulgent, but every single musician on this album is incredible. So what they're doing sounds amazing. It's just, but you know they're doing it to kind of wank their own ego.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's like, well, if you sound that good, wank away.
Yeah.
But as a listener, sometimes you would want the band to go, okay, we can't go this far with it. We need to give them something to sing their hooks into. And with their intro, sometimes it just feels like they've gone, let's just keep playing. Now I'll do my lyrics.
It's interesting you say it that way around, because I watched a few YouTube videos of people reacting to Streetlight. Normally it's musicians or composers, like, because a lot of people have like reaction channels on YouTube, and if they're musicians, they show that people show them music and stuff. And one guy, he's a composer, and his reaction was, I wish the lyrics didn't start. He's like, I just want to listen to them jam. He's like, I like the lyrics and he's great, but musically this is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. So I used to take one line from this quite a lot, growing up from quite like a Amiga background. The bit where he says, you got to keep trying, you got to keep holding on to what you got, because what you got, it sure ain't a lot. Yeah, I know.
Thanks, Thomas. Thanks for reminding me.
I think, well, he's from that kind of background as well.
Yeah.
So I think he's kind of not sympathising, but kind of highlighting that some people struggle and, hold on to stuff. There's also a massive anti-religious meaning in this one. In a lot of ways, you can read this how you want, but the bit before this and this bit specifically make you think he's saying it's about anti-religion, which is, you say you've got the cure, but I don't have a disease. You say you've got the answers, but I made no inquiries. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I took.
Yeah. So that's Failing Flailing. Did you have any notes on His to Life?
So there's an explosion of instruments right before the final verse.
Yes.
And I loved it so much my eyes actually widened. Like, it's like, oh my god. And then I actually wrote, when I came back to it after I listened to the album, it's like, that could have been the final song in the album.
It very well could have, yeah.
I think in any other album, like any other artist, they did something like that. That's like the big, we're sending you home now. And it's very interesting that they actually did all that, and then with like 5 more songs.
Yeah, 4 more off.
4, yeah.
So did you get any kind of meaning from any of this? Because he mentions a few people in it.
I didn't really get much meaning. This is me just trying to like figure everything out. I think my thing was as well, he sings so quickly.
It's like rapping, isn't it? It's
yes,
insane.
that's actually yeah.
And he plays guitar at the same time.
I know, it's insane how
like?
he's able to keep up with that, with everything.
So the people he mentions are Van Gogh, Hemingway, and a novelist I've never heard of called Albert Camus, who are all novelists and painters who committed suicide. Apparently there's a reference to Kurt Cobain, but I can't find the lyric that they mean. People were saying it on Reddit, and I was like, what are you talking about? They also use a lot of war imagery in this one, which becomes more prevalent in the next album. But it kind of starts here. They talk about soldiers a lot and stuff.
Yeah.
And the line, hey there, soldier, what did you do? Just when the world was looking at you to write anything that meant anything, you told us you were through.
Yeah.
And although they use soldier as the imagery, he's actually talking about those artists. So he's saying the world is looking at you for the next great novel or the next great piece of work.
Yeah.
Although Van Gogh was never acclaimed in his time.
Yeah.
they then killed themselves. Which I think he uses other imagery to talk about other things.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite clever. Again, I think he likes poetry a lot as well.
I would not be surprised if he writes poetry as well, like in his spare time.
A lot of the solo Tokay stuff is quite poetic as well. And I think he feels that he can indulge more in the words in that stuff, I think, because it's about him, it's his solo stuff. So,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Any more on his to life?
Again, just I should say I do think every song is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just I do think it's because I was trying to analyze everything. It made me need to take breaks, and this was like the next song I took a break on.
That makes sense. It's a good time to take a break because the two songs after this, A Moment of Silence and A Moment of Violence, are
incredible,
similar songs. They're actually, the melody's very similar.
Yeah.
They're actually written to be two halves of the same thing.
That's what I wrote.
Yeah. Go on, tell me what you thought. Are you going to... Let's talk about these two together.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Love A Moment of Silence, the slow tempo, everything. It's like, I was like, this is what I was waiting for. It was so good. And then when A Moment of Violence comes in, it's just an explosion of chaos. And so it works so perfectly together. I think you have to listen to these two songs together. Otherwise you're not going to get the full picture.
Yeah, I do as well, I agree. A lot of people, so I listened to a couple of podcasts, so I can't remember what it's called. There's a podcast about ska, and they speak about Streetlight. And there's two hosts, and one of them said her favourite song is A Moment of Silence.
Yeah.
And I found it interesting. They had a guest on who said their favourite song was A Moment of Violence, and I was like, it's interesting that you don't pair them together, because I think a lot of people do. And as a combo, I think they work really well if you play them back to back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you catch any lyrics in this that you thought, there's meaning that I knew and no one really disagrees with it, actually? This is the first one I was like, the meaning, no one else has gone, but what about this?
So the meaning I got was... So I might have interpreted it completely wrong, considering he writes about bank robberies and suicides, but I weirdly took it as like a point of revolution in a weird way.
So A Moment of Violence for sure.
Yeah.
A Moment of Silence is about being an outcast mostly.
That's what I was
So A Moment of Silence, please, for those who never get a chance. They show up to the party, but they're never asked to dance.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So like the Moment of Silence, all the outcasts and everything, like have a moment for them, and then the Moment of Violence is those outcasts have a revolution.
And there's an underlying theme that runs all the way through both of these. It's about the members of Catch-22. Because there's a line in it, and this is the only line, if you work your way from this line, you can see more of it, but this is the line that gives it away. He says, if you hate me so much, then stop singing my songs. Because they got famous off the back of that first album.
Yeah.
And every album after that is not as good. They've done one other decent album, I can't remember what it's called, and they've done another album that was really bad. But by far, their best album was the one that Tom wrote, Keysby Nights, Catch-22 Keysby Nights, to the point where Streetlight Manifesto re-recorded it. Because Tom has the rights to the songs.
Amazing.
They're his songs. Another thing about these two is A Moment of Silence is his... Weirdly, they're the wrong way round. But it's his view on the members of his old band after a few years of processing it.
Yeah.
And A Moment of Violence is how he felt when it first happened.
Yeah.
They're the wrong way round, but I think they just probably sound better the other way that way round.
Yeah, I think it would have been awkward if he did.
Yeah. That is that's a kind of unconfirmed. I tried to find, someone attributed that to Kalnoky, saying one was straight after How I Felt, one was years after How I Felt. And I cannot find the quote or an interview or anything, but someone on a lyric breakdown thing said he said this.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it's out there.
Yeah.
It's there, and I've not heard anything against it or saying it's true.
True. But at the same time, if he doesn't really discuss the lyrics, I doubt he's either going to confirm nor deny it.
No, yeah. Especially if it's about people he once had a friendship with.
Yeah.
So the last two songs, The Saddest Song and The Big Sleep, I think these two pair together quite well as well. And the only thing I could find informationally, a lot of people, this is really on the lyric breakdown things, The Saddest Song, yeah, it's about sad stuff. It's like, yeah, all right, well done. But Kalnoky said one thing about this song, and it's that it started as a sad piano song, just him and a piano.
Yeah.
And then everything got built on top of it to become what it is later on. And that's all I could find about it.
So obviously, if I was talking about these two songs together, since they blend together, I would say too. It was at this moment when I realised why I felt the songs sounded quite similar. The drums.
Yeah, he just powers through, didn't he, man?
Yeah. Because obviously we spoke about drums in our Slipknot episode, especially with Joey, and obviously when you get to Iowa, you go, why would people saying Joey's one of the best drummers? And you get to Volume 3, like, okay, I can understand
now I get it. Yeah.
With this, it just felt like he was just doing the same riff over and over and over, and I just feel like maybe it was just to help complement everything else.
I think everyone else was being flashy. And also, if I remember rightly, it's a different drummer on each album.
Oh, really?
I actually think that comes across in the second album is a bit more varied, the drums.
Yeah.
Because it's a bit speed skate punk in the first one, and in the second one he's a bit more all over the drum kit rather than just on that snare and hi-hat and bass drum.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And The Big Sleep, the final song of the album.
Is that about suicide? Because that's what I thought.
No, it's about war. It's an anti-war song. Although, again, he's not spoken about it.
Yeah.
Read a lot of it how you will. The Big Sleep literally means death. Like, it's a slang for being dead. And there's a lot of war imagery in this one. And there's a lot of anti-war kind of sentiment in this one. So I always thought it was about war. But, I mean, if you read Suicide into it, it wouldn't surprise me if half of it's fucking about something else.
One half about suicide, the other's about war.
And again, you can then put them together. Because a lot of people who go to war, get PTSD, kill themselves.
Exactly.
You could read it either way. And I had one note at the end here, which was, Josh Ainsley is one of the best bassists ever. He's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, those bass lines were incredible.
So this album they did an EP first, and 4 of the songs, and I can't remember which 4 they are, were then re-recorded and put on the album.
Okay.
But just from that EP, they got so much interest that they got the record deal that got them with Victory. We'll talk about Victory again in a bit at the end. Yeah, they got their deal with Victory from just this small EP that they recorded themselves.
Nice.
Yeah, they got a lot of attention. On to Somewhere in the Between, from 2007, in my top 5 favourite albums of all time.
Really?
I love this album. I have got lyrics from this album tattooed on me. It was quoted in my wedding.
Really?
Yeah. We'll get to that when we get to the songs that they're from.
Yeah.
But this album, the maturity musically, and to say someone who is as good lyrically at 21 years old as Tom Kalnoky was when he wrote Everything Goes Numb.
Yeah.
To say that in 4 years, to the age of 25, 26, he massively matured. I think he does. And I think, not in terms of how he uses words, but in terms of imagery and subject matter, I think he massively matures between the 2 albums. Lyrically, he's always been very clever in terms of like rhymes and half rhymes and structure. But I think this album's shorter as well. It's like 10 minutes shorter. It's only 45 minutes.
Yeah, I noticed that as well.
The better production straight out of the gate, and probably going to hear something. I want to get the liner notes out because there's notes on every single song that Tom wrote in this.
Really?
There's a note on every song, at least a small note on every song, not just the lyrics like there is in Everything Goes Numb. So I'm going to just get my little book open. And we can talk about one of my favourite albums of all time. So, opens with We Will Fall Together. What do you think?
My first note was it already blends us to the first album. It did. Okay, so here's the thing.
So I would say if you'd have taken a few days away and then started this album, this album, We Will Fall Together, is a gut punch straight away.
Yeah. So, the listeners are aware, I listened to this through Spotify.
Yeah.
Listened to Everything Goes Numb, and then it auto-played the next album. I didn't set it up to, it just automatically went into it. My plan was take a couple of days, process it. Also, went into it, and I just thought it was like a bonus track I missed or something. I was like, oh, what's playing? And I was like, oh, we all fall together. That being said, still having nodded my head along. And again, this made me feel like more like I was out of confidence than anything. Because the moment I put it on 2 days later, straight into it. Loved it.
So good. Did you get any kind of meaning from it at all?
Again, maybe it's just it felt like a really weird speech to the public, like a very chaotic speech to the public, inciting revolution and everything. Like, we will fall together, so we will stand up. If we fall, we'll fall together. So
I've always thought of this song as a mixture of war imagery and anti-religion kind of sentiment.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff about soldiers again. But the anti-religious stuff, essentially he talks about the idea that this life shouldn't just be a waiting room for something you don't know that's going to happen.
Yeah.
The idea that you live a certain way because you're told a certain thing, you behave a certain way because you think heaven is a real thing.
Yeah.
In the liner notes, he says, it's one of the pieces of this and some of the oldest material he ever had. He wrote some of it 10 years before the album. He says he remembers sitting in his dorm at uni in his underwear, strumming his acoustic guitar, putting parts of this, not the whole song, just parts of this song he had written. And he obviously rewrote it in 2006-7.
Yeah.
So there was a part of there was original we were up to the part in the song that should be the chorus, but I had nothing. Fortunately, that night, at the 11th hour, Chris and Pete slept on the floor of the studio. The chorus fell into my lap. Upon singing the first line to them the following morning, I thought to myself, and we probably will, for better or worse. So, when we fall, we will fall together.
Yeah.
He wrote that. Like, they'd half recorded the song, and he hadn't written a chorus.
Wow.
Which is, I think he probably wrote these liner notes because he was sick of people asking about the meaning. So he's giving you something here to stop people going, what does this song mean?
Yeah. I wouldn't blame him, to be honest.
Yeah. So I think that's quite cool. So the next song, Down, Down, Down to Mephisto's Cafe.
Love it. Love the opening. Love the entire song.
It just, that kind of opening, wow, down, down, down.
Yeah. I loved I found myself singing along to it.
Yeah. The chorus, because obviously the chorus repeats.
Yeah.
And the down, 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 it repeats itself quite a lot.
Yeah.
And I think it's just amazing. It's another song about atheism, for sure.
Just with devil imagery with Mephisto.
Yeah. The line, the gang vocals are just perfect.
Yeah.
So when there's a bit later in the song where there's not a lot of instruments and it's just them, like 4 of them singing. I think Tom probably double layers some of his, but the other guys are singing as well. And it's a bit where they go, they broke him wide open like a dam and a cork that's been holding everything inside.
Yeah.
You could play the role of rebel, just be sure to know you're wrong from your right. And I was just like, that is... Ugh. And when they all sing that with the layered vocals, it sounds amazing.
Oh, absolutely.
Love a gang vocal. So, I said about the last song being 10 years old. Apparently... the bare bones of Down, Down, Down to Mephisto's Cafe are even older. He introduced it to Catch-22 when they were originally going to do a second record. But then he says, ironically, this is now a song on this band's second record. Back then, it was around, or at least the chorus was, the lyrics for this one summarise the general theme of this record as literally and nakedly as possible. Oh, and Streetlight's first take on this song clocked in at 7 minutes 30.
Jesus Christ.
And then he put, seriously? I mean, it's a lot. It's over 5 minutes. I think all the songs on this are over 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe just shy some of them, but they're in 4 minutes plus at least. So that's what he says about the song. It's just a great song, isn't it?
See, so we just had the bare bones skeletons of it were there for Catch-22. I wonder... how much of that does he mean was bare bones skeleton? Like the structure,
I think what he did was he had a guitar and some lyrics. And he played it to them. And went, I was thinking this for the second thing, and that's probably the only time they heard it.
And then they said, "You're out the band."
Well, then he went, "I'm going to go back to college.
Yeah.
See you in a year." And they were like, "Oh, we're going to do the band anyway." I don't know the ins and outs. It's not really been published, the ins and outs. All he's ever said is, "I went back to college, and they decided to continue on without me," which he clearly, when he was younger, held a lot of resentment about, which is fair.
Yeah, it's fair.
Especially if you wrote most of the first album. So, track 3. This song is stunning. I love this song. This is the song that I've got tattooed on me.
Would you be impressed?
Yeah, but I've got Would You Be Upset, which is the opening line.
Yeah.
Me and my friend Connor have both got it. He's got it tattooed across his chest, though.
Oh, nice.
And I've got it on my arm. This song, it's one of my favourite songs. It's actually one of the songs that blew them up a bit more. So, Point Counterpoint on the last album gave them a big kick.
Yeah.
And then this song on this album gave them another kick. This was released as a single, and it had a cartoon music video, and it went viral.
Nice.
My friend Connor has got Tom Kalnoky in the video is a lion, like a cartoon lion, and Connor's got that tattooed on him.
Amazing.
Yeah. I think, honestly, this song is, in terms of like him being poetic, is one of his best ones. And I think it's got some of the most like kind of super deep meaning. It's about kind of taking responsibility for the shit that humanity's done. So, pollution, extinction of animals, just damage to nature, damage to each other, war, and things like that. Which is the whole line, every time he repeats, it's not my fault.
Yeah.
Which is like the idea that people would say that's not my fault, it's not my fault. Then at the end, he says, I know what I have to say. I say it's all my fault.
Yeah.
Like, not me as a single person, but I'm not helping.
Yeah.
And it's just brilliant. And then I actually thought you could, even though it's kind of 15 years later, or 13 years later, you could attribute this to the way people acted during COVID.
Yeah.
Going, I don't care if it spreads. I'm young, healthy, it's not my fault.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the way some people acted during COVID. Like, we've got people in our local area that were having parties. We could hear it, we could see it. Just the way people acted. And I think you can extrapolate it, because obviously he didn't mean that, because he didn't know that was a thing. but it's a similar vibe, as in people taking responsibility for their actions.
I mean, it's a very disconcerting thing that a song like 13 years later could still hold up in that sense. But yeah, that's what I thought as well. It's very like how, as society, we don't like to take individual responsibility. It's always has to be the bigger people, or it's like, oh, I'm not doing it. Oh, I'm not doing it, but why aren't you doing it too? It's a very, lack of responsibility. Just for like a global thing.
Yeah, it's definitely about responsibility, this song, and I think it's not only is it a great song, I think it's quite, the fact that it blew up a bit was quite important. Yeah. Especially if you pair it with the video. The video is like these animals getting like killed and like seals getting clubbed and like pollution, and it's quite a dark video really, considering it's quite a cartoon.
Yeah.
Tom's notes in the liner notes are quite interesting. He says, for whatever reason, so much of the lyrics for this record lean towards the macabre, the hopeless, but it is a reaction to the current state of world affairs and the slow and steady realisation that, quite frankly, things are not as they were promised to us. I'd often write a verse or two, sing it back to myself and think, Jesus, this would make even the Teletubbies suicidal. Somehow, I like to think that I at least try to weave in some sort of positive twist here to redeem myself. The lyrics here centre around a big old metaphor involving disease and responsibility, which is why I actually took, because he uses disease.
Yeah.
But he means kind of the disease of humans being dicks, essentially.
Yes, yeah.
But if you take disease as a disease,
COVID.
You could take it as COVID for sure. But if I sang you the original lyrics for the first verse, you'd likely piss your pants laughing. Not so funny anymore, though, I guess. So, yeah, that's what he says about it. But yeah, it's about the state of the world, responsibility.
Yeah. So just want to mention one thing. There's a guitar solo in it.
Yeah, there aren't many, are there?
It's outstanding.
He's so good, isn't he? It's funny that I think he wants the audience to listen to his lyrics.
Yeah.
He doesn't really want you necessarily, because the guitars, especially in the first record, is weaved quite low in the mix.
Yeah.
And this is the first time in 2 records that he's gone, no, I'm going to do a good guitar solo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's outstanding. It's like, it made me wish for more.
Well, that's the thing. He's as kind of people, I think, unfairly tarnish Tom Kalnoky with the brush that he's quite egotistical, and I don't think he is. I think he writes very clever lyrics.
Yeah.
And I think he knows he's got something to say.
Yeah.
And I think it shows you that he's probably not that egotistical, because there would be a guitar solo on every other track if he was. He is the leader of the band.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. He started Streetlight. He started Bands to the Acoustic Revolution before that. He started Catch-22 before that. And never have I ever thought he wants to be in control of this band.
Yeah.
He wants to have everything he does be at the top of a mix.
Yeah.
The guitar is often so low in the mix, and that's his instrument. I know he sings, but his main instrument is the guitar. And the fact that he's held back for that long before doing a guitar solo, I think says a lot about him.
Yeah. I would say he gives me Jack White vibes.
He's a better lyricist than Jack White.
I think, because Jack White, he's always been very instrumental. But I feel like he plays around with all different instruments, and then lyrics are just there to give you something to hook onto. And I feel like, in terms of him, Thomas being a ska punk person, Jack just being a rock person, they're very similar in how they approach music.
Yeah.
Except the one defining feature is lyrics. Tom goes very heavy on lyrics. Jack
goes very light. Yeah.
Goes very light.
Yeah, I think Tom's clearly very intelligent and very opinionated, and I think he's like, I've got so much time to tell this story or say this thing I want to say, and I'm going to say fucking everything, and that's why he says 400 words in a minute.
I did also write, the fast lyricism makes everything hit so rapidly that sometimes you just can't process it.
Well, that's the thing. I think I have processed it over multiple re-listens.
Yeah.
But sitting down and writing what I thought, I was like, oh fuck me, how much does he say here? Yeah, anything else on which you be impressed? What do you think of this song?
Again, it's outstanding.
It's a stunning song, isn't it?
And you saying it's the one that helped propel them even further. Makes sense.
Yeah,
honestly.
So what about the next song? 1 foot on the gas, 1 foot in the grave.
So I said the opening made it it sounds like a completely different song to everything that had to come before it.
Yeah, I think it's a nice break in the album. It's just before the halfway point of the album is.
Yeah. And then obviously it goes back to just this. I put it's their style now, just a very chaotic, go, 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 go. But because as you said earlier, every song is around 5-6 minutes.
Yeah.
So I did have to I found myself at this point looking up, like, am I still on the same song? Just having to make sure.
Yeah. But I also think it might be about money. Well, this was my thought before reading his notes. As he says, we might just make it on our own after all. I can't even remember why I thought it was about money. On the re-listen, I was like, this sounds like it could be about, like, I think they say something along the lines of, they've got it, we want it, they claim we'll die without it.
Yeah.
To me,
I
corporate greed.
I saw more about power, like power, just in general.
Well, I was thinking like corporate greed.
Yeah.
Was like kind of my thought on it. Again, this is the thing where there's similar meanings, but you could take it exactly how you take it is different. But there's obvious religious imagery again with what we do when they call your name and you're not ready to go.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's again imagery of like this idea of people treating life as a waiting room for eternal life, quote unquote. And I think he again sets a lot of that imagery. In his liner notes, he said, with the exception of exactly 2 lines of lyrics, this one was written in its entirety in the course of recording this album. So it wasn't pre-written before they went into the studio. I would literally sneak away and write a little here, write a little there, careful not to let on that despite being in the thick of recording, this song was little more than a title when we began. Almost always when writing songs, I look for melodies by singing gibberish while strumming the guitar. Interesting. Then when I'm happy with the melodies, I go back and fill in the nonsense with actual words. There's one little sliver of the song where I couldn't resist leaving in the gibberish, as it was a non-too subtle nod to one of my favourite bands growing up. But he doesn't elaborate on that or what lyric he's talking about. The lyrics are in here as well, and I can't see any gibberish.
I just find that incredible then.
The way, if that's his writing process, that's insane. Because he literally just goes, da 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 da.
Yeah.
And then goes and refills it back in.
Like, that's insane to me that he was basically, as he literally said, sneaking away.
Yeah.
During the recording process to actually finish writing a song.
Yeah, it sounds like the rest of it. Some of them are 10 years old. Some of them were written like on the day they were recording them. They said about the chorus to Down, Down, Down. That was not... He'd written the verses and the melody, but he hadn't written any lyrics. And it's just like, well, okay. So the next song, Watch It Crash. I love this song. It's a punker, faster.
Yeah, I literally wrote it because it sounds like a rock song, like rock. So my interpretation of this song was about a life going off the rails, but he's not going to do anything to stop it. He's just embraced it.
Yeah, watch it crash, literally. Watch it crash. The line, my favourite line is when the song there, mercy, mercy, mercy me, I'm praying for the death of the man I'll never meet.
Yeah.
I'm like, I wonder if he means like, is he talking about like a politician or something like that? I don't know.
I took it as he's not going to meet his like older self, like the man he'll become.
Oh, that's a deeper meaning than I initially ever took from it. Again, it sounds like it could just be, you could show up to like a skate park and it'd be someone playing it on their little Bluetooth speaker and you would ignore it because it's just like, sounds like it fits there. Yeah, but absolutely. Then you go back in and go, fuck me, there's like a million lyrics and so he said about this song, a tune about the anonymity of war. So the man you'll never meet is someone like, so think back to say World War II in the trenches. Yeah. You're hoping that guy over there's dead. You never met him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably what that line means, maybe. It kind of seems like a game sometimes, like Risk or Battleship, where you would kind of observe from a great distance, in brackets you put the internet, as young men are actually killing each other for whatever reason someone came up with. So, religion, political... Oil, yeah. We've expected to hope that our young men will kill enough of their young men to the point where we can declare a victory. That's kind of embarrassing. And it's like, wow. And he's not wrong either, which is the...
No, he's not.
Yeah.
I just love how the lyrics are so poignant and open to interpretation, then the way he just writes his notes, it's just so casual.
Well, that's the thing. He because he's so poetic, he writes this with a story or two in mind. And then, because the lyrics are so dense and so there's so many of them, I think people take loads of meaning from them.
Yeah.
Most of which he probably didn't intend.
No.
But I think when something sounds lyrically so good and sounds poignant, people then put meaning on it. I honestly, I re-listened to this album a few times in the run-up to this, and I was like, do you reckon people who are religious could take some of it and go, oh, that sounds like a positive for religion? And I was like...
I don't think they could take it as a positive for religion, but I feel like they might not be able to interpret it in their own ways.
Yeah.
Because I think that's always like the fascinating thing about music unless you're reading his notes, some of these songs you might not notice about religion because, well, as we just said with Watch It Crash, my interpretation was of life going off rails. Turns out it's about war.
Yeah, exactly.
So it can be about so many different things, and so I feel like they can take whatever they want from it.
Yeah, for sure.
Just don't read his notes.
Yeah, don't read his notes, because having read these, I probably won't remember them, to be honest, but maybe I'll take the time to reread them a few times and get in my head what he thought. I didn't want to do that for this because I wanted to discuss what I thought.
Yeah.
And then I knew these were in here. Someone on Reddit led me to show. I didn't know this existed until someone on Reddit said, "Oh, by the way, there's linear notes on every one of these songs." I was like, "Oh, all right. Well, I'll look at them." I hadn't read them till I'm reading them to you now for the first time I've read them because I didn't want to change what I thought.
Yeah.
But I might reread these a couple of times now and then go back and listen and try to pick out what he's saying.
I was going to say that would be really good to do because then you now have an understanding of what he meant.
Yeah, for sure. Now, the next song, Somewhere in the Between, title track of the album.
Yes.
Big hit. And when I say big hit, I don't mean publicly adored. I mean, it hits big. It's super happy, super punchy, and it's a song that was spoken in my wedding.
What part?
So, you were there, you recorded this.
Yes.
During the ceremony, my friend Connor, the one who me and him have matching streetlight tattoos, he did a reading in the ceremony, and he read a big chunk of this song. And I will read it to you now. He read, "So you were born, and that was a good day." And this is going to be really difficult to not do in the tune. And I said to Connor when he was doing it, I was like, "You can't do it in the tune." He's like, "I don't know if I can stop myself." But let's try. "So you were born, and that was a good day. Someday you'll die, and that's a shame. But somewhere in the between is a life in which we all dream, and nothing and no one can ever take that away. You had a love, and the love had you, and nothing mattered, you were fine. Some will complain they're just bitter, what a shame. They know that loving and losing is better than nothing at all. Maybe the times we had, they weren't that bad, and everything else was part of a path. We sang, I don't know where we go from here. This is the anthem, the slogan, the summary of events, and we all just idolise the past. So you were born, and that was a good day. Someday you'll die, and that's a shame. But somewhere in the between is a life in which we all dream, and nothing and no one can ever take that away."
Sorry, I just getting flashbacks of watching that through the camera lens.
Yeah. So my friend Connor spoke those lyrics during the ceremony, not just like in the speech. Yeah, shows you how much I love this band.
Yeah.
Because a lot of their lyrics are quite moody. I did find it. I really wanted to do Streetlight because they mean a lot to me, and I introduced them to Katie, my wife. And she loves them, and then a lot of the other music I love seemed less appropriate. So pop punky stuff, most of it's about breaking up. But I've always thought of Streetlight as super poetic and the lyrics are great. So I needed to find something. And again, I'm about to read the liner notes. It's going to turn out it's about suicide or something. But to me, those lyrics are about like living your life and like, loving and being with friends and being with people you love. And if people don't like it, they can fuck off.
Yeah.
That's how I've always taken this song. It was always like, for me, when I was looking for lyrics, this is the first song I went to, and I found it straight away what I wanted. I didn't even look at any other songs when I was looking for a Streetlight lyric. Did you take anything away from this one?
Well, first thing I want to say, so after listening to Watch It Crash, I took a break from listening to this album for a whole day. Good.
This is a really good song to come back in on.
That's the first thing I wrote.
Yeah.
I was like, came back into it, and I'm scared to hear what the notes are now because, it felt like a very uplifting song.
Yeah, I did. I've always taken it, this one specifically, in this album, as the, fuck everyone else, I'm going to do what I want. Like, but not in a Rage Against the Machine way, in a positive way.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I love the sax solo interlude.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
So good.
Oh, it's amazing.
All right, hit me with the liner notes.
Come on, what did Tom say about this? Somewhere in the between. This was such a gentle, slow and sad song. Oh, here we go. What happened? ? My favourite part of recording this one was watching Soprano and Brown go back and forth, literally having a conversation through their horns, over and over again until the conversation felt just right. And that's all he says. So the fact that he said it was sad, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there is an element of kind of post-love to it rather than actual love.
Yeah.
But I've never taken it as sad.
Yeah.
And he doesn't explain himself, so I'm going to continue to feel my way about this.
Maybe the sad part was the recording process. Who knows?
Maybe, yeah. On to 40 Days?
So, I feel like this might be the weakest song of the album to me. Not saying it's bad. It's just one that never stood out to me.
Having a weak song on an album full of killers, I mean, it's going to happen, isn't
It happens. We discussed
Yeah.
that with Slipknot.
Yeah.
It happens. There always has to be the one bad song. And I felt like this was it.
I don't think it's a bad song. I think it's a good song. I just don't think it's as good as the others.
Yeah, I also just felt like the album, it's so intense. So when there's a quiet ending, it's like a great calm down.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. It's like it's trying to find that nice balance of knowing where you want to give your listener like a little break, and then you can continue doing it. And I feel like he mastered doing that.
When I'm re-listening to this song, I genuinely thought you'd like this song quite a lot because, and I don't know if you just didn't pick up some of the lyrics that he's saying, but basically the half of what I've always taken from this song is the idea that if you were to judge human nature to be sinful,
Yeah.
then what's the fucking point? So the idea of homosexuality,
Yeah.
or that's always what it took me to.
So
'Cause
40
obviously-
days.
Yeah.
I immediately thought of Noah and Noah's Ark. It's
Yeah.
40 days and 40 nights.
There is some imagery of floods, I think. In this.
Yeah, there is. I
Yeah.
just thought it was a very he was him trying to retell that story, but
I think-
instead of washing away who God deemed as the sinners, it's him wanting to wash away the people
the judge him.
Yeah.
Yeah, the judges.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I
Yeah.
interpreted it.
So I've always taken this as a kind of pro humans should have their own choice to not be judged.
Yeah,
I've always taken it a kind of as him being pro LGBTQ.
yeah,
How can you judge human nature the way someone feels, whether they want to love someone of the same sex, love everyone,
yeah,
or change how they identify?
yeah,
That's their human nature. That's part of who they are. How can you judge that as sinful? It makes no fucking sense. And I always thought that's what he was saying.
yeah,
And if there's a bit where there's a line, if you're going to break it down with any logic, it's absurd. So I always thought it was a pro kind of treat everyone equally, let everyone be
Yeah.
who they are.
So it's
Yeah.
my argument with religion. Like, I will respect your right to religion, so you respect my right to live my life.
Yeah, I think I've again, multiple listeners have read more into it than maybe you have. Maybe if you go back, you'll maybe see where I am coming from. But
absolutely.
let's see where Tom's coming from, shall we? So, 40 days. Every night after Thatcher, Pete and I were done laying down our rhythm tracks, so they're the two of the horn players, for the day, we'd sit back and listen to what we had so far. It was during one of those listening sessions that we decoded that if we were to make a music video for this song, we'd need Legionnaires' outfits, so their military outfits, I believe.
Yeah.
A desert setting, and a camel that would walk in time with the beat. Don't ask. So he doesn't really say what the song's about. He just said if they ever did a music video, that's what he would do. So there's not really any thing. So I'm going to continue to have my opinion on that one.
I do like how with some songs he's very nonchalant about it. I'm not going to give you the meaning, just going to tell you how much fun I was having with it.
Yeah. It's very, very interesting what he chooses to say.
Yeah.
So 3 more songs left. The Blonde Lead the Blind. Now this one, I think, just from the title, you can almost kind of get what they're going at.
It's a very sexist title because the blonde. I immediately thought blonde bimbo.
No, I think he's saying. Well, if you go back and listen to the lyrics, he's saying magazine culture back in that time, i.e., you put a model on the front of a magazine, you're going to make women feel like shit.
Okay.
The blonde leading the blind.
So yeah,
I've always thought it was. It's about that, and you can now extrapolate. There was social media in 2007, obviously Facebook and stuff, but you can extrapolate it to how like Instagram models and fake life and stuff. The idea that this idea of someone perfect, normally a model.
also I think the biggest person you contribute that to as well, if you think about it, Marilyn Monroe,
Yeah,
the blonde person that everyone like would say this is what you should aspire to, and
So I've always taken it as a very anti-media, anti-print media specifically back in the day, but you could like extrapolate it now to social media
Absolutely.
and the way looks are held above everything else.
yeah,
And I've always thought that's what it meant.
yeah,
I've always thought it meant physical beauty over everything.
yeah.
That's what I thought he was talking about, how the media treat it. I can read his liner notes though if you...
Sure, can I just make
Yeah.
one note? So the last 1 minute 50 seconds is instrumental bliss.
I wrote in my notes, it sounds like a musical.
Incredible.
It's so good, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's that kind of... It almost sounds like... You know, in the idea of like a big brass band?
yeah,
They've managed that with 7 people. When a big brass band would be, 30.
yeah,
And it sounds that big. It's incredible. It is. And this is the one... I think this is so good. It takes away from the idea that they're being indulgent, like you said about the earlier track. It's just so good. You go, wow.
Yeah, it's indulgent, but at the same time, if it's that good, don't care.
Then do it. Yeah, for sure. Tom's notes on this: the blonde lead the blind. This little piece of Dixieland swing rock would have been on Numb, which is what he's short for everything goes numb, had I ever gotten around to finishing it. So it's an older song. Well, here it is finished. Almost every time we listen to it, the control room of the studio during the part where Matt goes into the soaring trumpet, we'd extend our arms and pretend we were flying. Try it, it works. And then he says, Atreyu after.
Oh, Never Ending Story.
Ah, there you go. Yeah, so he doesn't say it specifically, but I think take the title, go back and listen to it. I'm almost certain it's about media and imagery and stuff. I mean, I see why you would come from the idea that that's sexist, because it kind of is, but it's because the media's sexist.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
I think it's just highlighting it. Yeah.
Yeah, like, my people say, oh, he's being sexist. Like, there has to be a deeper meaning behind it, and clearly there is. It's Tom, like this. Yeah. There's going to be.
Yeah, there's multiple layers. So the receiving end of it all, second to last track.
Also, this is probably like the one song I'd want to hear live the most.
Because it's different, isn't it? It's quite intricate. It's got what you said earlier about different parts of a song. Yeah. I think this, with the Spanishy bits.
I was going to say, there's a switch up at the 3-minute 45-second mark. It's incredible.
Yeah, the musicality, the change in that is ridiculous. I've always thought this one was about secondary, kind of, some of it sounds like it's about a failing relationship, which sounds a bit too base for Tom.
Yeah.
So I've also thought it's about how generally people are selfish. That's what I've always.
That's my interpretation of it.
To be on the receiving end of it all is like people just being dicks, essentially.
Exactly. Dealing with people's selfish nature.
Yeah. Tom says, arguably everyone in the band's favourite track on the record. This one was a typical combination of 2 or 3 older songs that I at some point realised were really all different parts to the same song. Whenever we go to the chorus, we can't help but headbang in slow motion. Should make for an interesting live show. So he's written these pre-playing them live.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no kind of notes on what it could mean. It kind of, towards the end of these liner notes, he stopped kind of telling you what they mean.
I think he just stopped caring. It's like, tell you how the experience was.
Yeah. Any more notes on the receiving end of it all?
No.
So on to the last track of these 2 albums, of this album, What a Wicked Gang Are We. And I've said, I don't know why, but I think this might be Tim's favourite.
It was, and so this is the funny part. So I wrote 2 big notes, and I need to read them in the order I wrote them.
Cool, go for it, shoot.
So as I was listening to the song, I wrote, I find the final song of an album either needs to be the big final explosion or Come Down, like we did with Slipknot, because with Iowa, with Danger Keep Close, and with If Range What You Want, for all those 3 albums, they're like the big come down. And I felt like, and I wrote, this was halfway through the song, I have to stress that part. But I felt like this song could been at any other point in the album. Then the last 40 seconds happened.
Oh, yeah.
And, oh my God, it's incredible.
It's so good, isn't it?
And yeah, it bumped it up to being my favourite song on the album.
I don't know what it was. I was listening to it, and I wrote, in my notes, I wrote, What a Wicked Gang Are We? Then was like, I write the title of the song, then I've got a dash, and I'm going to write some notes. And I can't remember what point in the song I just wrote, I don't know why, I think this is going to be Tim's favourite song. End of the album, absolute banger. And I think it's just about them being a band, being
That's
friends.
What I thought, yeah.
Yeah, because it's called What a Wicked Gang Are We?
Yeah.
And all he wrote about it was, this started as a slow, quiet acoustic jam and has done up to be a rocker. Boom. And that's it. That's all he said. Which doesn't give you a lot. How can such an explosive end to an album... That's all he says. Right, so, 2 albums.
Yes.
What do you think? What's your favourite part? What's your favourite song over the 2? What was your favourite of the 2 albums?
So...
Any favourite lyrics?
Overall, both great albums. Both in my notes, I say... I give these albums both 7 out of 10s.
I mean, that's atrocious, but I don't know how you can live with yourself, but okay.
I would listen to every song again, but I'd have to have them shuffled around other music in my library.
Yeah.
I feel like they would be great songs that just appear out of nowhere with all that chaos.
Do you know when I listen to, especially Somewhere in Between?
Yeah.
Springtime. Weather's getting better. I want some brass section in my life. I want a trumpet and I want a saxophone.
That does sound perfect.
Yeah.
I would definitely say my favourite album of the 2 is Somewhere in Between.
Yeah, it's an absolute classic.
I can definitely like you mentioned earlier, there's maturity.
Yeah.
I can definitely sense that in somewhere between.
Yeah, he's well beyond his years, I think. And I don't know whether the shit with his old band, and he kind of let it go when it first happened, and I think he realises he probably maybe shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's definitely matured between the two albums as a lyricist. And musically, I think they're tighter in the second album. Yeah.
I definitely do want to listen to their third album.
Yeah, that's called the Hands That Thieve. It is a banger, but it's not as seminal as these two.
Yeah.
These two made the band, and I think these two are steps, and I don't think the Hands That Thieve is enough of a no step away. And in fact, I think Somewhere in the Between is a better album.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't bother going for the third one. I thought these two are way more important. Plus, we did Slipknot 3 albums, and that took fucking ages.
Yeah. And considering that third album, we were both really unhappy.
Yeah.
Go back to that episode and you understand why we say that. So I did extra credit.
Oh yeah, go on, hit me.
So you had been mentioning Tokei's solo stuff.
Yes.
And I discovered that. So I listened to his most recent single, You By Me Volume 2.
Okay, yeah.
Which is him and Sagamore Smith from another band. They would cover each other's songs.
So it's a split?
Yeah, so the first 3 songs were done by Tokei. They're the only songs I listened to because I only wanted to listen to Tokei.
Yeah.
But Sagamore Smith actually covered songs from Everything Goes Numb.
All 3 were from Everything Goes Numb, were they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'll have to listen to that.
So
I do like a split where bands cover. No Effects have done a couple of them. They're always good fun. Yeah.
So he goes straight for acoustic vocals and like acoustic songs in that. I found that really fascinating because obviously I've been hearing
he leans into him a lot. Yeah, he loves a good old acoustic jam. Yeah.
And considering from his notes, he kept saying all his songs started off as acoustic jams and then developed.
They build it, yeah.
So, but it's very great to like hear an artist go outside of the genre that you've known him for.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're great fun listen. They've done 2 volumes of it, of them just working together, doing that. I'm
going to have to go back and listen to those. I've listened to the first Tokei solo album, and he's done a cover of the third one, The Hand.
Yeah.
It's called The Hand That Thieves rather than The Hands That Thieve.
Yeah.
Because, alright, this is one thing we're going to have to just get into briefly. They fell out with their record label after The Hands That Thieve.
Victory Records?
They fell out with Victory. Now, Victory have got a bit of a history, and I'm not going to talk about it now, but go into a history of upsetting their bands. They've had some lawsuits, bands speaking out against them. And I didn't do a lot of research into it, so I don't feel educated enough to talk about that part of it. All I have is the Streetlight side of it, because that's what I was looking at. So they were contracted to do 4 studio albums.
Wow.
So that includes the 2 that we've covered today.
Yeah.
The Hands That Thieve and Bandits of the Acoustic Revolution.
Okay.
Which is called the 99 Songs of the Revolution. Oh, and their version of Keysby Nights, the Catch-22 album. So they did 5 albums for them. Victory claim that the Bandits don't count because it's cover songs. And also they apparently gave Streetlight a 10 grand advance for it, which apparently somewhere in the paperwork cancels it out. But then I still don't really understand, because that still sounds like they've still done 4 albums for them, which is the contracted thing. So when The Hands That Thieve came out, Tokei, with all these problems, decided to re-record just an acoustic version, The Hand That Thieves, switching the S's around for some reason. Victory saw this as a break of the copyright and withheld the album being sold anywhere but directly from them.
Wow.
So Streetlight took it upon themselves. Anyone who had pre-ordered the album through the Streetlight website, they burnt it to a CDR and sent it to them.
Amazing.
They asked that no one buy it from Victory. They asked that no one buy it from any shops if it got there, because it would be coming from Victory.
Yeah.
They said you can pay them to download the album, but they basically fell out with Victory Records. Yeah, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but it went to court, and for an undisclosed sum, Streetlight paid Victory, and they now own all their own master tapes.
Amazing.
So everything they've recorded is theirs. Amazing. So if you were to go and buy a vinyl pressing now of Streetlight, the money goes to them. If you were to listen to it on Spotify, the money goes to them. And they're part of a group of, and I can't remember, if you have to forgive me, I can't remember the name of the group. There's a group of artists that get together who think in today's age with the way music is consumed, artists are better off owning their own stuff.
Yeah.
And they're part of a group that all own their own music together, and I think the point of it is that if you want to do physical pressings, they help each other out with money, and then they get paid back.
That's amazing.
But they do it as a collaborative effort rather than having a record label own all your stuff. So yeah, so now Streetlight as a band and Tom own all their songs. It's theirs.
That's fantastic.
They own their own music. How about that? The idea that you have to go through a legal battle to own your own music is crazy to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, there you go. And you can still listen to Tom's version of The Hand That Thieves. Funny how he put The Hand. I think I know what he's alluding to there. The Hand That Thieves is out there because he owns it. So
incredible.
There you go. Go out and listen. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Are you going to listen to them again? You said
absolutely, yeah.
Well, that's it. That's it for Streetlight Manifesto. That is it for this episode of the Cult Classic Society. And I think Streetlight really are a cult classic because they have a cult-like following. The fans are nuts. Tim, what am I doing next week? Or in 2 weeks?
Well, Bobby, in 2 weeks' time, we're going to go into our first video game venture.
Oh, I'm excited.
Yes, I'm going to make you tackle Metroid Dread, which was released in 2021 and exclusively for Nintendo Switch.
On the Switch, I love my Switch. So
the Switch is my go-to console. So
yeah, let's get down to it. I mean, I've got a long commute and it's the best time to play video games.
Exactly.
Nice. If you want to follow us on social media, we are at CC Society Pod on Instagram. If you want to send us a quick email, we are ccsocietypod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you all in 2 weeks for Metroid Dread.
Bye.
Solution.